You're listening to the Story Now podcast. Today we are speaking with Lindsay Leahy and Brooke Fitzgerald.
A little gratitude will make your garden grow. A little gratitude is good for your soul.
You're listening to the Story Now podcast. Today we are speaking with the masterminds behind the restoration project. But before we get into that conversation, we have with us our producer, James Roth. Welcome, James.
Hello, hello.
What is your New Year's resolution?
I don't do New Year's resolutions. So I do year plans.
Okay.
I don't do New Year's resolutions.
So what do you mind if I ask you what's in your year plan for 2022?
Oh man. So I'm going to lose weight.
Okay.
So that's kind of similar to a New Year's resolution, but the difference is that I've written out like a detailed plan on how I'm going to pursue that. Right.
Yeah.
And then obviously like financial goals, planning on saving X amount towards retirement and stuff like that.
Nice.
Man, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what else I added in there. So basically I just break it out into like health, wealth, relationships, and then just write specific goals and detailed plans on how to achieve those things.
Dude, that's amazing. Do you find that it's easier when you actually write it down?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So like when I do it, the way that I like to do it is like I'll write it down and then print it out, and then I actually will like sign it, and then I'll put it on my wall so that I have to look at it every day.
Oh,
and so
dude,
then it's
that's
like,
smart. That's smart.
Hold myself accountable to it.
It's kind of like you're signing a contract with yourself.
Right. Exactly.
Dude, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's great. I hit every single one of my goals for this year except one.
Okay.
Which was to lose weight. So.
Gotcha. Dude, that one's the hardest.
It's hard. It's really hard.
That's really cool. I'll have to think about that as we go into 2022. The contract with yourself, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So today we're talking with Lindsay and Brooke. What in their conversation stuck out to you as somebody who wants to own their own business one day?
Yeah, so they talk about this a little bit in the podcast, but they just got started into being business partners, and so they've had to develop a certain style to their relationship that makes it easy for them to move forward and resolve issues and things like that. And listening to it, I kind of chuckled because I'm like, it sounds like this is stuff that would work in any kind of relationship. You know, this would work in a marriage or whatever. So I feel like a lot of that stuff, there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, 100%. And I would actually say that's, and maybe this is the first time that like, that's been the same thing that both of us have identified maybe in a conversation. I was just blown away with their dedication to being honest with one another. Mm-hmm. I think you hear enough horror stories of business partners not being open with each other and talking about how they're feeling. And, you know, some of those conversations are really hard and it could end friendships, but I feel like the system that they have in place is, I just respect it so much. And I would hope that, you know, Storyline would have an environment like that where we can all speak our mind, work through the hard things, because ultimately it's not only going to make us a better business, but it's going to make us better people. Mm-hmm. So without any further ado, here is our conversation with the amazing Lindsay and Brooke.
That's good.
I think there's something that changes the dynamics once you put the headphones on.
For real.
Something's like, maybe I wanted to be a singer,
radio
writer. Yeah, like, hey.
Like you're listening to your own podcast. I think that's, and it just, it makes it kind of sound more official.
It does.
It does.
Yeah. So I was telling Lindsay this morning that I listened to the podcast that she did back in May of last year.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Before you had joined.
And that was right before you had joined. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, can you kind of walk me through what happened immediately after that last podcast?
In true Lindsay form.
Many, many things. Well, I got a partner, not expecting. So I would love to tell you the story because it was pretty awesome. So Brooke and I started walking together in March on Sundays at her house, and over that time had just been talking about, I think a lot of us were doing a lot of self-reflection during that time. Like, are we really doing what we want to be doing? What am I doing with my life? How did I get here? And so we were having some pretty deep conversations and recognizing that Brooke, like, she has such a large network and so many people were already coming to her for coaching that she was like, well, maybe I want to do this kind of part-time on the side while I'm still doing commercial real estate. She just closed the coffee shop. So a lot of life changes. And then one day we were walking and she just said, I think I want to partner with you and like do this full time. And I was like, what? I mean, it was kind of out of nowhere.
So it was out of nowhere for me too. Just so we're clear on that. It wasn't like a planned conversation. It just came out.
And then I was like kind of teary-eyed about it just because we have gotten so close, and to be able to work with one of your best friends and somebody that is so like aligned from a values standpoint was, and I always thought I was going to be a solo show. So it was just so exciting. So we kind of stayed in that moment and said, God, if this is for real, like if we should really do this, give us a sign. And literally like 10 seconds later, cardinals flew in front of us while we were walking.
It almost hit you?
Like literally right up in front of our face. It was wild.
We just looked at each other and we're like, okay, I guess we have to do it now.
Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
It was
That is
incredible.
so great.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, then from that day, it was just like no second guessing or second thoughts. We just started making plans and figuring it out. And we are, I think the technical term is twin flames. So from a spiritual standpoint, like we are just, I can't even explain it. Like we can finish each other's sentences, but we have opposite skill sets and opposite ways of looking at the world. And so everything that had been hard for me about this business when she started, she just helped me. Like it was like, now it was, instead of double the impact, it was like 100 times the flow of business and the energy and it was just incredible. Yeah. And then it just exploded from there, and now we're 5.
Yeah.
So how long have you known each other then before the walk?
The wine night at Cobble Hill.
Yep. So we were introduced originally at the old Early Bird coffee shop space. So Early Bird was a coffee shop I owned.
Okay.
And we moved into the new space in 2016. So I want to say 2015 at some point was when you were introduced to me through Kevin King. And turns out we were Mount Mercy College alumni.
Okay.
So we had that in common. And then we just kind of, we would run into each other and things. And
I was just like, this lady's cool. I'm coming to her coffee shop every day, so she has to be my friend.
And I was like, cool, she's a regular customer and I'll give her coffee. Great. This is awesome.
I was just sitting there sipping my coffee, watching her in admiration.
What's her regular?
Americano.
Okay.
Or large drip. Yeah.
Okay. Story checks out so far.
Yeah. So we organized this wine night at Cobble Hill, one of our favorite local places, and just to get to know each other a little bit more. And we went at like 4:30 just for a happy hour, and we closed the place down. Went to another place even after that.
Nice.
Because that was truly like the night that we'll never forget because we connected on such a deep level that it was like, oh my gosh, like we were supposed to be together somehow. This is, just like a friendship that's instant. And
Yeah. And then so fast forward, then we started, so my friend Sarah, who's also a Mount Mercy alum, has started this thing called Friend Spirit. She had this dream that, what if a small group of us women just like got away that care about spirituality and are interested in just quiet time, but being together and giving ourselves space to journal, hike, yoga, just take a break from the world and kind of be together in community, but, you know, have our individual time and our own agendas at a little cabin in the woods or something. And so I was the one that knew everyone. So I invited Brooke, and this was still early, maybe like a year
This
after
is very
wine.
early.
Yeah. And so we still were like kind of getting to know each other. I'm like, hey, you want to go to a cabin in the woods and talk about spiritual things with some ladies that you don't know?
No, no, I don't. That sounds very scary.
She graciously accepted, though.
That's fun.
And my friend Heidi. So it was Sarah, Brooke, Heidi, and I for the first couple years. And then Courtney ended up joining us. But that was such a cool, magical experience. And then ironically, Sarah and Heidi are now both on our team also. So we had this like special one time a year bond. And then we would meet sometimes at the early bird in between like once a month just to stay in touch outside of that February retreat time. And then now all of a sudden we're all working together plus one, the four of us plus one. So it's been like we all knew we came together for a special reason, and it's been fun to watch it evolve.
That's pretty cool. So one question that I have is, I think you always hear warnings of friends going into business together. I've seen that go wrong, and I'm not putting anything out.
I've been in those scenarios where
Yeah.
they have gone wrong.
So I'm just wondering about your experience when things come up. It seems like you have a great foundation. You're pretty open. I'm just wondering, is there anything that you have kind of put out there as kind of like, hey, if we need to talk about something, we're going to talk about something?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I'll tell you
Many
actually
hard conversations.
Yeah, she already knows what I'm going to say. This is probably a few months ago. Yeah, because September was the golf outing. So it like latter part of August, we had a very sideways conversation. We were talking about something very serious and just growth of the company and things like that. Big decisions were being made. And we both got very sideways. And we both left that meeting not feeling good. Went into the weekend not feeling good. And we came back on Monday. We actually were playing in a nonprofit golf outing with our husbands.
Okay.
And her and I rode on the cart and we were like, we're making a pact right now. That will never happen that way again. Like, here's what we learned, right? How did you feel? How did I feel? How could we have done that differently? What will we do next time? And we just learned and grew through that conversation of here's what I was feeling. You know, how was she feeling? And we just have a very mutual understanding. We always have that, you know, we each have stuff, just like every human being, right? That prevents us from being our best self. And instead of holding guilt and resentment and worry and all those anger, yucky feelings, we can be honest with each other and say, hey, this is something that's bothering me. And I'm just going to put it out there, right? So that you see me and then I see you and we can work through it together.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what we do for our clients too, right? Like,
Yeah.
we
it's like the
gotta walk
doctor
the walk.
prescribing, you know, the stuff, right? Like, don't do this, don't do that. And then you see them later at the restaurant doing all the things that they told you shouldn't do, right? So we have to, like you said, walk the walk. Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort, you know, to create that safe space and know that you can show up fully as who you are. We talk about it a lot in marriages, you know, but I mean, we view our partnership with the same seriousness, that it takes a lot of work. And sometimes we even have to tell each other, okay, I'm putting my business partner hat on here, or I'm putting my friendship hat on here. And just what are the rules? And it takes, I mean, we talk constantly because there's always misinterpretation and misunderstanding. And because each of us view the world so differently and have different coping styles, you know, like in that engagement, what was happening was Brooke was shutting down and I wanted to resolve it. So I was continuing to poke and pull and prod, and she just needed space. And I've learned that in my own marriage. My husband's the same way. He just needs space. So stop doing what you want and consider for a minute what the other person needs.
Sure.
And I should have just given her space, and then we probably could have come back and resolved it that same day. But it was just getting to know those things. And we have really healthy daily practices of letting go of resentment and apologizing to each other and letting go of things and practicing healthy boundaries. And, it's just, this is the work we do. So we have to do it ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what you're saying is that there has to be almost a clear expectation of, this is what we're going to do. And so I think the thing that I appreciate the most is it applies to business too, right? Like, before we started recording, you were talking a little bit about just the fact that you have to make sure that when you bring on a new client, that their core values align with your core values. Do you want to talk a little bit about what those conversations look like? Because I feel like there's a lot of crossover even with a friend, the friendship and starting a business together.
Sure. I mean, our core values. So the first one is understand yourself and honor others. Second is lead with love, then live with courage, act with integrity, and connect to something greater. And for us, those are ways of living. Like we worked long and hard on perfecting not just the words, but like, what does that mean in action and how do we carry that out? And we're always coming back to those in our lives, in our friendships, in our relationships, and in the work that we do. And a couple hard lessons in the last 2 years where we thought we were clear on expectations. And for us now, it just looks like with a new client, excuse me, especially that first one, understand yourself and honor others. It's sitting with them before we sign an agreement or go into an engagement and talking about what that means. Like for us, for a CEO that we're going to work with and consult their organization, understand yourself and honor others means we're going to have you look in the mirror about what you do well and what maybe you don't do well and what needs to change. And if you're not comfortable with that, starting with you at the top, then this isn't going to work, because we've had so many engagements where that didn't work out. So it's having those really hard, honest conversations up front and just getting that all out of the way. What role are you playing? What role am I playing? Because it also, in the work we do, everyone's got different strengths. And so it's important to have those conversations. Like I just onboarded a new client yesterday. We kicked off their engagement, and the CEO, he needs to just be told what to do. Where other CEOs, they want to drive, and I kind of we will play like a sidekick to them. Well, this guy's like, if you don't tell me what to do, tell me what you need and hold me accountable, like this is not going to work.
Right.
So we have some of those conversations just about the dynamics of the relationship and making sure that we're all acting in alignment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I don't think that we mentioned too is not only after the last podcast did you guys become a partnership, but you also now have other people part of the team. So what does some of those team meetings look like? And sort of going off this whole thing of like making a safe space and taking time for yourself, as somebody who manages a team now, what does that look like for you? And what are some of your tricks? I guess I'll say in taking a step back and taking the time to regroup when you need to.
Yeah. Well, we Friday mornings we have team meetings, so everyone participates in the team meetings here at our office, and we kick off the meeting with highs, lows. So, what was your high of the week? What was your low of the week? And that just encompasses the human component, right? We're all human beings, and we can kind of normalize and hold safe space for each other when. So,
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Is that highs and lows of their personal life as well?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Personal, professional, whatever it was.
Okay.
Yep. And a lot of times it is personal, in nature. And then we go through client action, prospects, activity, new clients that you onboarded, things like that. And then we go through our normal
Yeah, whatever else is
agenda.
on the list. Yep.
Yes, on the list. But I think Lindsay and I, it's really, really important to us that we care for our people, and that we know them and see them as a human being, and that they know that we love and care for them just as much as, we want them to hold us accountable to that too.
Sure.
And we've got other regular traditions, like we have quarterly celebrations on the calendar. So we'll take a half day and no business talk. I mean, business talk in the sense of like, what are we celebrating? But then it's just time for us to be together and have fun. This year we're going through strategic planning actually on Friday, and getting really clear about everyone's roles and goals. And so our two big metrics for success are lives touched and connections built. So how are all five of us striving towards that? Sarah's role is more project administrative focused. So giving her clear line of sight to how she's helping us do those two things. And we are so achievement oriented, we're not good at the celebrating part. So we literally schedule those things out in advance so that we have to do them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you do the quarterly, do you have a comparison of what it was like before doing the quarterly celebrations?
Yeah.
Did you see like a huge difference? I mean, I know that you probably did, but I'm wanting to kind of hear your perspective a little bit more on that. So personally for me, I lose sight of how far we've come or what we've achieved. And so that really anchors me. And I get unsatisfied in this extreme sense of urgency. Like I see the impact that we make and the impact that we could have, and I want to do it all now. And so those help me stay grounded in, you are doing it. You are making a difference. Every person matters. So for me personally, that has been a huge shift in just like being able to build this business sustainably and live good lives and not bury ourselves in what we're not doing, but really celebrate what we are, has been a gift to me.
Yes. We, in addition to the quarterly team celebrations, Lindsay and I have a quarterly retreat just with us two, which I think is a unique dynamic. Many business owners, say to us, "Oh my gosh, you do that every quarter for the weekend." I mean, we leave Friday, we don't come back till Monday morning. And we just spend the whole weekend really focusing, like doing deep dives, right?
On the business instead of in the business.
Yeah, exactly. And we also do a bunch of just connections and hiking and walking and a lot of nature time and reflection too, which is just so important when things are going so fast for everyone. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, right? We're in a culture and a world where things move very, very quickly. And I think it's interesting, coming out of a pandemic where there was months where nothing was happening, right? And we were all like, wow, that was actually really nice.
Yeah.
Right. But then what do? We
Back
sped
to
back
busy.
up, right?
Yeah.
Back to the busy. Because that's what we've been conditioned to do. So we've been very intentional about keeping those on the calendar going forward and taking time to reflect.
And we do a lot. I mean, we work hard, like yesterday. So we have some workshops and things coming up, and we put all of our prep time on the calendar because, again, like our goal is to build this in a way that honors everyone and their schedule and be able to, put the first things first, and lesson learned this last year, like October, we didn't do that and it felt yucky. And we're not that the work that we do, like our most important mission in the work we do is to show up to provide safe space for others. Well, if we're not at our best, we can't do that.
Right.
And so we have to be really focused and purposeful about how we spend our time, what we say yes and no to. So we're continuing to hone in on that. By like 2022, the calendar is already like planned out pretty much. And then we know that we can only take a certain number of clients or a certain number of speaking engagements in those months so that we have the time and the space to adequately prepare, adequately recover, and celebrate and enjoy our life in the process.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It takes a lot of work, but
I know.
it's worth it.
Well, it's so funny because I feel like when you start a business, at least this was my experience, was you talk to other people that have done stuff and they'll say things like, once you start saying no to certain things, that's when you're really going to start growing.
Mm.
And you think, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then you start to get to the point where you realize, oh, I'm not going to take on a bazillion clients. I'm going to provide a service, a really, really good service for this many.
Yes.
And then you start owning your time. And so that's just been one of my, so it's fun to hear about your, and I think I'm going to steal some of it, honestly. And I've been trying to do that where you block off times in your calendar but it's challenging for sure.
Yes.
And so
Got to give yourself that space and that time to really sit down and break down projects and put them on the count. It's a discipline for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned preparing for workshops, and I know that you also speak at events. Can you talk me through a little bit about the workshops and then also some of the events that you might be speaking at?
So I'm going to take back to about this time last year. We were on a quarterly work retreat, and we were being asked by many people, right, to host retreats, host workshops, things like that, have our own content and spread it not just to clients that were coming to us, but vice versa, right? And we tried one thing in March. We tried to launch a leadership experience. Didn't go well, failed. So we learned through that, right? I think it's very important to, while we have had a lot of success and growth, we've also had failures along the way and experiences.
Yeah, you don't see that stuff on social media, but it has been hard.
Yeah.
It has been a grind.
Yeah, and just things that you learn along the way. I think it's important to emphasize that. So come around to this fall, again, being asked, okay, so what's the right fit? What's the right niche? What are we being asked to provide? And so we've come up with Courageous Leadership Workshops, which will be a quarterly series for leaders in the corridor to come together. And Lindsay and I will provide the first hour and a half will be a little bit of networking, but then tools and resources on a specific topic to explore. And then beginning in February for 2022, there'll be a full day workshop, ticketed price. So the initial series, 8:30 to 10, is free, thanks to sponsors and partners that we have here locally. But if you want to, okay, great, I've got an hour's worth of tools, resources. I want to go deeper though, and I want to explore this, right? We have the full day workshop option. And then Intentional Insights, which is a program that we did do in 2021. It was virtually though, via Zoom, monthly, hour long, spent lunch with us. And again, very exploratory, introductory, topic focused, but questions, reflection, giving you some ideas and thoughts to think about in your leadership and just those conscious practices. That was very well received.
Yeah.
Many people, we actually recorded those sessions and sent them out to clients and folks that purchased tickets. And many people, if they weren't able to join us virtually online, they were able to listen to the recording afterwards at their convenience. And we would get emails and texts and phone calls about, hey, oh my gosh, that was so good. This resonated, this, So that was a really good series that we're going to continue in 2022. But going to every other month, and we'll be in person over the lunch hour. So we get to have another in-person experience.
Yay.
So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the Intentional Insights is more for like up and coming leaders, like people who are just starting to think about, man, I'm struggling. Just starting to think about more self-awareness and getting into those kind of practices, self-discovery type things, learning their leadership style, maybe emerging leaders, where Courageous Leadership Workshops are more about experienced leaders learning, practicing, and then taking back conscious leadership practices to their businesses. So for December, our theme is letting go to make room for what could be. And so it's, and our style is much more question reflection based. Like we're not trying to give you a one size fits all concept, but we want the experience to be that you come from wherever you are and whatever experience you've had and whatever organization you represent, and we can present concepts and questions to you that then you have the space to figure out, how do I take this back and apply it in a way that aligns with who I am, the values of my company. You know, and I like to give the example, a performance-based culture or a people-based culture are very different. Like performance-based being very goal-driven, kind of high burnout type of environment. We're focused on the numbers. We're focused on profitability. Now, all of us have philosophical ideas about whether that's right or wrong, but we try to meet our clients where they are. And if that's who you are, then embrace it and let's figure out how we apply this concept of letting go and making room for what could be in that environment versus more of a people, family-oriented type of culture and dynamic. So that's the cool part of, I think what we're trying to build is just help people do that internal reflection and find what works for them instead of applying like a one-size-fits-all framework or something like that. Like this is the right way to do it. There's no one right way. We want people to act with integrity. Let me model what I believe in and who I really am. And that's what a culture is. It's a collection of individuals coming together, living out their values. And so we're just pumped. It's kind of a different, it's hard for some people to wrap their brain around. So we're super excited to have these opportunities to allow people to experience it in a small way. And then we're hopeful that these day-long experiences in particular, I mean, our dream is it's at the nature center. Get out of the busyness of your day, get away and really think about what matters most, what your priorities are, and give people that space to do it and then take those things back and apply them.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. Well, fun might not be the right word, but meaningful.
Meaningful.
It's hard. It's deep work, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine that, you know, with a day long, you cover a lot of ground, but in a sense, you're also just scratching the surface. So is there something that people can do to start working with you more one-on-one? Is that kind of how you, I don't want to say get people. I think that's not what I'm trying to do, but I guess like, because I feel like the day-long conference would be more of a, this is what we specialize in. This is what, you know, we see a value in you. How can we unlock, you know, more? So what does that look like afterwards? Like when you come in and work with a business?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of options. So sometimes it's more of a strategic, you know, like we want to reevaluate how we are living things out. And so that would be a longer term engagement where we're spending a lot of time with the CEO, and then maybe the executive team, and maybe infiltrating then, like taking these ideas. For us, it starts always with discovery and alignment, and then creating, you know, workshops around concepts related to the values, or where is there that gap, and how can we coach people and get people aligned and understanding. So it can be a longer term engagement where we're spending time kind of coaching and honing in and helping live out and keeping a plan on track long term, or it can be group coaching around a singular concept. You know, maybe we're struggling with conflict resolution, and how do you show up and do that in a healthy way that's aligned with who you are. So it could be more topically focused group coaching, and then we do a lot of individual coaching as well. So it can be, we introduce these concepts, and some people will come out of those workshops saying, I just want to go deep in a personal way, like in my personal life on this concept of letting go. Some people will come and say, I want to talk about our leadership team and how we get into this routine and idea of letting go to make room for what will be, or organizationally, like what are the big things that we need to shift from a system and a structure standpoint that aren't working anymore. And again, that's the beauty of, I think our magic is creating that safe space and allowing the room for discovery to get to the root, where a lot of people will layer on a framework or a solution too early. And we really force people to like dig deep. What's the real issue here? What do we really need to shift?
Mhm.
And then how do we do that? Let them co-create with us, because they know, we shouldn't dictate a solution to a business owner because they know the business better. Our goal is just to draw that out of them and them to start to put the pieces together on what that solution should be, and then hold them accountable to doing it,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Magic.
Magic.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's again, without and this has been a challenge for us, for me personally. We can't program what we do, like, or productize
Right. Yeah.
what we do. It's very difficult because it looks different for every single client, but we have a process that we go through, where we are doing discovery, we're kind of creating alignment and a vision, and then we're executing and managing the execution of that. But it's going to look, even if somebody comes in and says, I want to revamp our vision, mission, values, and our culture, it's going to look different for every single client that we
Right.
work with that journey.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
without an ability to productize it, it's like, just trust me, this is going to be awesome. And it always is.
Well, and I would imagine that that's why part of like why this field that you're in is so exciting and you guys are so energetic is because it is so different for every client. I feel like that's what I love about
Yeah.
what I do is I get to meet different people, and somebody might have a product that helps you on a day-to-day basis, or they have a service, and so that's so fun that you can come in and you have sort of this framework, but it's loosely based on where that person is or that business is at that time.
Yeah.
So do you have sort of, how do you identify people's strengths and weaknesses? I think that you kind of talked about it for the both of you, that you have strengths that are, and so I'm wondering, is there like a personality test, or can you kind of tell right away? Or I'm just curious how that whole process is.
I will never forget, we were on a quarterly retreat. This is probably, I don't know, a year in maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting there, we're working on our computers, we're divvying out jobs and responsibilities and things we have to do. And all of a sudden, Lindsay says to me, well, I don't actually love to do that. Like that's actually really difficult for me to do. And I'm like, that's such a simple thing. I mean, now zoom out for a second. Lindsay is an amazing person who, like, her brain is incredible at creating just content and concepts and putting them all together. And she's an amazing writer. All those things I'm really not good at. But she says to me, this like simple thing in my mind, right? It's like such a easy
Something to do with logistics or execution.
something like that, like putting an agenda together for this,
Yeah.
whatever. And I was like, wait a second, what? Okay, well, she's like, wait, so you love to do, like, that's easy? Yeah, like I can totally do that. She's like, oh my gosh, we are so yin and yang. Everything that I don't like to do or that does not give me energy, that drains me, I can do it. I don't want to do it though. She loves and can do like that
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it was that one moment in time where we were like, oh my gosh, we have to voice to each other, right? This gives me energy. This doesn't. Hey, how do you feel about doing this? How do you feel about doing that? And if it's something that we both really don't like to do, then that's when we know we have to hire that out. Or is somebody on our team, are they capable of it? Does it give them energy, right? So we've kind of had those conversations, and we have those conversations with our clients too.
We love personality tests. Like, we do some stuff with the Enneagram in particular. But I personally have taken every personality test you could ever take, and I feel like they're limiting. So what we try to do with people is give questions, deep questions, to get them to explore and find these strengths and weaknesses or even limiting beliefs. Like we just try to help people wake up to how do you think and why do you believe what you believe and why do you experience the world the way that you do, whether that's through conditioning or past experiences. And then are all of those true or are they not true? And we have some work and rewiring to do. Or why does that give you energy and why more exploring deeper on some of those concepts. So my favorite clients are the ones that have taken all the personality tests, but there's still so much more to explore. If you've never thought about like, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about others? What do I believe about the world? Why do I believe those things? What does success mean to me? And really, we're always looking out here, you know, and letting other people define that for us. So we do a lot of work on you figure that out for yourself. And that's been our own journeys, is like living your whole life for someone else. And at some point in our lives, we all wake up to that. Whether, you know, hopefully it's in your early 20s or your teens. For me, it was more around 30. And I'm like, I have everything that I've ever thought I wanted and more, and I'm still not happy. And it wasn't, no personality test helped me with that. That took the deep self-exploration of those questions to really dig in and figure out why do I, and it helps with that line, right? Because we use those personality tests a lot of time as an excuse for not doing something or for acting a certain way. And this, we make ourselves and our clients go deeper than that, you know, so that you can find that line of, okay, I'm resisting this because of a belief that I have and I have to push through that, or I'm resisting this because it doesn't feel good and it's not aligned with my values, so I'm not going to do it. Those deep, we're just trying to get to that next level of consciousness and awareness for people.
Well, and I know too that faith is a big part of your whole model. And so I guess my next question is, you know, I've worked for organizations in the past that would probably say you have to leave that part out. So how do you handle that? How do you work with that? I'm just curious because, you know, it's
it's a real
always,
thing.
it's always changing. And so I'm just curious, how do you work that out?
It's, I mean, I've had people say like, you're too faith forward. If you say amen, that's not okay. And in those, I'm just like, okay, well then I'm not the right fit for you because that's authentically who I am. Brooke and I both, our last core value, and maybe the most important one, is connect to something greater. And we left it generic because we love all people. Like we believe what we believe, each of us, but we honor everyone, every single human being and where they are. Two of my best friends are atheists, and we have extremely respectful, enlightening, insightful conversations, you know? And it's interesting because it just solidifies my faith even more, and the same for them. But that's been always our approach, is just meet people where they are and give people the safety and the space to talk about it if they want to talk about it. Many of you'd be shocked how many business clients do want to talk about that, or we'll talk first about connect to something greater in the sense of serving others. And then it will turn into that, you know, especially now. I mean, how do we have faith and hope to keep going when things are so hard, you know? And those are such amazing, fruitful conversations to have with people, to give them kind of that energy and that hope back. So I think we just try to be open and let people go where they want to go with it, but never push our ideals on other people.
Right.
But we pray, like internally, John, I mean, we pray about every decision. We are, I mean, it's very intense for us, individually and collectively. And when we're making big decisions, I mean, we're in that cabin in the woods on our retreats, saying a lot of prayers, lighting a lot of candles, letting our theme for 2022 is focus and faith. And just that idea of we need to do our part, but we also need to strategically leave room for God to do his part
Mhm.
and for us to allow him to show us doors and opportunities that we might not otherwise see. So it's that balance of having strategic intent, but not such a focused plan that we're running past the doors that he's opening to us along the way. And he's always our third. Whenever Brooke and I are meeting, I can always like feel God's presence as our third person. So it's not, it's cool.
That's
it's
pretty
cool
fun.
experience. Yeah.
It's fun.
So, and I think part of what you're saying too is just being very open and upfront, and I think it's so interesting what you're saying about even just your friendship with your atheist friends.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me because you turn on the news and it feels like it's one against the other, Democrat, Republican. So do you see that a lot maybe in when you're working one-on-one with people, is like, hey, you can still be friends and you can still work together. Do you see do you have to navigate that quite a bit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I think another secret sauce, if you will, is having that outside open perspective in guiding people, helping them navigate through all of that stuff. You know, I like to say like just media and our culture, right? It's messy and it wants to lead you to believe that that's reality, right? And that really isn't reality. So if we can allow open space to kind of navigate through that safely, then you can see almost like the light bulb connect to the heart where it's like, oh, wait, okay. Yeah, I can connect to myself first, right? And then have faith that, gosh, I can move forward and there is hope and there is, you know, leading with love is the other, you know, one of our other core values. And that is in the broader sense, right? Like lead with your heart, you know, and connect to that instead of.
And we strip all those labels away, like in group coaching specifically. Like I've had a couple hard groups that were not getting along, and there were some very clear rifts, deep-seated, long-term blocks up, you know, or walls up. And just really, we try to strip it all down to help them see each other as human beings, like beyond the labels, like and I've had to say things like, so what if she's a Republican, you know, or so what if she's a Democrat? Why does that matter to you? You know, in the context of what we're trying to do here, why does that even matter? And help people, not challenge them to shut them down, but help them process through it and realize, oh, I can set that label down because in this setting, that doesn't matter.
Right.
Because that has nothing to do with the goal that we're trying to achieve here. And also challenging people, like we know from our own personal experiences, those beliefs run deep, you know, and unless the only way that I have found to help people, like if somebody is homophobic, and I've had this personal experience with a loved one, the only way to help them see somebody who is LGBTQ plus as a human being is to get them eyeball to eyeball having a conversation.
Right.
And then you leave that and say, hey, did you know that she's gay? And they're like, what? You know, like you have to purposefully curate those experiences where they have options to tell personal stories, just to show each other that their humanity. And then you see those walls start to slowly crumble and break down. And for us, facilitating what we actually have in common, you know, like I had two people in this office for many weeks that were just battling. Their work styles were different. Their perceptions of life were different. Their perceptions of the work they were doing together was different. So I worked really hard to try to find their commonalities. And then let's talk about what we have in common. And you just see people soften. But the culture is doing such the opposite all the time. We have to deliberately find those opportunities to show people what we have in common.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I liked, because we talked a little bit about it before we hit record, but you said that, trying to find ways to serve the community and to give back is a common ground that you find. How do those conversations go?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you implement that yourself?
Yeah.
We've both been passionate about that since before we had this business, but
Right. I mean, there's a sign in each of our offices, who did I serve today? I mean, it's a very common practice, but having conversations, starting back to what I was just saying earlier, connecting to your heart, and as human beings at our true nature, we want to serve others. And I think just through conditioning and through growing up, right, we lose sight of what's the purpose of why I'm here. And so we just start having those conversations and asking those questions, like what Lindsay was referring to earlier. What does success mean to you? And where does serving others come into play?
yeah,
Here,
I mean, at the end of your life, what's really going to matter? It's always what people thought of you or the memories that you made. It's never, and when you remind people of that, then they can see how serving others, it really is our purpose of being here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then living it out ourselves. There is a conscious business component to giving back, you know, hours volunteered,
Tithing.
dollars, all of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and the boards that we serve on and things like that all align.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We budget for donations that we give back to the community. We were talking earlier about being strategic about giving hours or doing pro bono work for nonprofits that we really care about or ministries that we care about. We keep track of all of that. Like this year, that's actually going to be a hard metric that we measure, hours and dollars given. When we've always kind of had an idea of what we wanted to do every month. But we even have on our vision boards, like the months and who we gave to and how much. So we're diligent about tracking that. And I think for us, it keeps us in an abundant mindset, like that. The more you give, the more you do get. But it takes a lot of discipline to give, especially in a season. When you're a business owner, there's ups and downs.
Yeah.
And to give in a down can be really challenging and refining, and that forces us to do it and to have that faith, because then we see like God does provide back all of that. So we're super passionate, and we want to be role models for every other business to be socially conscious and aware, and to have a purposeful, intentional component of their business to give back, whether that's time, money, whatever, to the community. That's so important.
Yeah. Amen.
And it feels good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's studies that show that the more you're others focused, the happier you are.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And what we found too is like, just in giving your time from a photo video perspective, a lot of the nonprofits that are doing great work don't have the funds to bring in somebody to tell that story and make the community aware. And so that's kind of, yes, we do give money to the community, but we're also looking to really up that in 2022 of how can we come in and potentially do projects for free, and give back. And I think that's every time I am not thinking about that aspect of the business, I think that's when maybe the thoughts get out of control of what are we doing here? And then that kind of grounds you, And so, and we saw that a little bit during the pandemic. There was a couple businesses that we worked with that had to shut their doors. And so we were like, hey, just, don't worry about what you owe us. You have employees and you had to shut down. And now that they're reopened and back at it, they're one of our biggest clients. And so we found that just when that was not my intention. That's not why we did it. We saw a need. And so anyways, just the power of serving others is just.
And those people will be loyal to you forever, because you stuck with them and gave them grace when they needed it. And that's, for us a lot, we've had similar stories through the pandemic of clients that couldn't pay or whatever came up. And I think for us, we've had to shift to like, yes, we do need to be able to provide for our families, and we want this to be a sustainable business, but the metric has shifted to lives touched and connections built, and more of an emphasis on working with people who want to do the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many companies out there that can pay us more, but they're not willing to do the work. And like what we're trying, our mission is to empower people to live, lead, and work with meaning. I don't want to collect dollars from somebody who's not aligned to our values and going to live that out. You know, I would rather give that time to a company even that can't pay, but is focused on making their life, their work, and their leadership very meaningful. That's it. And it always does. It always comes back in referrals. Like for people that haven't been able to pay, they pay you in other ways. They tell people about you. They refer other businesses to you. So it always, if you do the right thing, it always works.
I know. I kind of hate it. I kind of hate that it works that way sometimes.
I know. It'd be so much easier a different way.
Yeah. So my last question for you is, so my wife has this shirt. It says a woman's place is in charge. So this is a 2-part question. So this is a 2-part
Love
question.
Love your wife. Love that shirt.
So this is a 2-part question. Part 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being strongly agree, what's your number? And then my second question is, why is it a 12?
Love it.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Oh,
Yeah.
women should run the world.
Oh, absolutely. I'm 100% confident of that. Absolutely.
Hey, look, we just have different skills. And this is, again, like appreciating genders and how everybody and every human being looks at the world a different way, thinks about the world a different way. I think women do have, I don't know if it's because of cultural conditioning or experience or what, we just see and create safe spaces easier, it seems like, for those things to happen, for ideas to flow, for collaboration to happen, for, I don't want to pick one gender over the other, ever.
Oh, yeah.
But
no, I understand.
But men, for men, the cultural pressure to like perform and be a certain way and is also hard, know. But yeah, I love that shirt, and I love that you let her wear it.
Oh
proudly.
Yeah. Well, no, she is in charge. So, well, and I think it goes back to like, just kind of, I feel like maybe to summarize our conversation, it just feels like everybody's just so different. Everybody has their strengths. And so that's what I love about that shirt and who she is I wouldn't be able to have a business without her, because she's the technical minded one. She's the one that can run the numbers. Right. And then I'm kind of the dreamer. So, but it's just so funny because that shirt, I mean, it's just, we all can help each other. Yes. I think is maybe the takeaway. And so just finding how to connect with people. And I just love that you've built a business around that and it's thriving. And I've, it's going to be crazy because after this podcast, you're probably going to skyrocket even more.
Thanks, John. You're our platform for taking off.
No, that's not it.
Probably.
Well, it was just so funny because just even listening to the podcast that we did before, it was just such a fun time reflecting because you had just shared the story of your childhood and you were in a certain spot, and I had kind of talked a little bit about leaving a pretty crazy religious thing, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even really think about that anymore. And I think it's because if you own your own story and you can change directions, and that's what you guys are all about. And anyways, we're excited to see what's next for the restoration project.
thanks for letting us share our story. I mean, this
Yeah.
is such an amazing platform, and what you're doing is incredible and so reflective of the work that, like own your story. Everybody's got a story, and how can we own it and honor it? And it's neat that you're giving people a platform to do that.
Yeah. So how can people find you on social? How can they reach out to you?
Facebook,
Yep.
Instagram.
The Restoration Project CR on Instagram, and then just the Restoration Project on Facebook. We have everything on our website. So services, events that are coming up if you're interested in the workshops or anything like that. We've got an awesome women's retreat that we launched called How Did I Get Here? That's March 4th through the 6th. So if there's any ladies that want to give themselves an amazing gift, we get away for 2.5 days.
Yep.
Good food, good conversation, go deep on why are we the way that we are, and how did we get here?
Yes. 4 out of the 10 spots are already filled for that March event. But website's www.the-restorationproject.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us today. And I know that
Thank you.
we all learned a lot, and we're all a lot better now. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.
Be good to yourself. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Story Now podcast. Before we go, we just wanted to give a special thanks to Justin Goodchild, who wrote and performed the song that you are hearing now.
And please be sure to follow us on all our social media channels, and we'll see you in the next episode.
When you hunger in the tooth, you take your mind off one small truth. No matter what you got, it's never gonna make you whole. Sunday morning, take your rest. Think of all that you've been blessed with. Appreciation will fill up your bowl. A little gratitude will make your garden grow. A little gratitude is good for your soul.